So you ever wish you had like a mental toolkit for when life gets tough? A way to build this unshakable fortress inside you no matter what the world throws at you? Well, it actually exists. It's this 2,000-year-old philosophy called Stoicism. And today, we're going to break down how it can make you, pretty much undefeatable.
Our story kicks off way back, around 300 BC. We're in Cyprus, and we meet this guy named Zeno. Now Zeno, he's a super successful merchant. I mean, by any standard, this guy has it all. He's got the money, the status, a business that's just crushing it. But then, disaster. On just one trip, his ship, the one carrying literally everything he owned, sinks. Gone. Just like that. In a single moment, something totally, completely outside of his control just erases his entire life's work.
Seriously, put yourself in his shoes for a sec. How do you respond to that, right? Anger, for sure. Total despair? Feeling like life just completely ripped you off? Yeah, for most of us, that would be the go-to reaction, and it'd be totally normal. But Zeno, what he did next was, well, it was anything but normal.
See, instead of getting stuck on everything he'd lost, he shifted his focus. He looked at the one thing that shipwrecked couldn't take from him, his own mind. And his answer, his response to this absolute catastrophe, well, that became the foundation for Stoicism, a way of thinking that would end up guiding everyone from emperors to prisoners for thousands of years.
All right, so here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with that shipwreck and the philosophy it created. Then we'll hit the core idea, the dichotomy of control. We'll see why it's a philosophy for absolutely everyone, how to put it into practice, look at the 4 Stoic virtues, and wrap up with its amazing, enduring legacy.
Okay, so a shipwreck turning into a world-changing philosophy, how does that even happen? Well, for Zeno, losing everything on the outside, all the stuff, it forced him to look inside. He just threw himself into studying, and in that process, he stumbled upon this huge insight about what really makes us happy and what makes us suffer.
And this is the big one, the idea he landed on. He realized, hey, I can't control what happens to me, the shipwreck, but I have 100% absolute control over how I respond to it. That realization, that right there, that is Stoicism, in a nutshell. Which leads us perfectly into what is maybe the most important part of all of Stoicism. It's called the Dichotomy of Control. You can think of it as like the operating system for the entire Stoic way of thinking.
The philosopher Epictetus just nailed it with this quote. He said, our main job in life is super simple. Draw a line in the sand. On one side of that line, you put everything you can't control. Think about it. The weather, the stock market, what other people think of you, you can't control any of that. But on the other side of the line, that's your turf. Your thoughts, your judgments, your actions, that's all you.
Okay, let's clear something up right now. A lot of people hear Stoic, and they think it means being a robot, totally emotionless, just suppressing everything. That is so not what it's about. Stoicism isn't about not feeling stuff. You're going to feel sad, you're going to feel angry. The point is to process those feelings with your brain, with logic, and then choose how you're going to respond, instead of just letting your emotions run the show. And what's really cool about Stoicism, right from the get-go, is that it was for everybody. This wasn't some philosophy for academics locked away in an ivory tower. It was for people on the street. I mean, just look at the range of people who lived by this stuff. You've got Epictetus, who started life as a slave. Then there's Seneca, one of the most powerful politicians in Rome. And then Marcus Aurelius, the literal emperor of Rome. From the absolute bottom of the social ladder to the very top, they all found something powerful in these exact same ideas. And get this, it was shockingly progressive for its time. Musonius Rufus, who was Epictetus' teacher, basically said, hey, virtue isn't just for guys. Women have the same capacity for it. I mean, at a time when that was a really unpopular opinion, the Stoics were inviting women to come study philosophy with them. They really truly believed this was for everyone.
Okay, so we've talked about the big ideas, but how do you actually use this stuff in your day-to-day life? Because that's the whole point, right? Stoicism isn't just a bunch of theories to think about, it's all about putting it into practice.
You can almost think of these as a mental workout. The Stoics would do things they called voluntary discomfort, like intentionally taking a cold shower, sleeping on the floor for a night, or just eating super plain food for a few days. They would also practice visualizing worst-case scenarios. And it wasn't to be all doom and gloom, it was to get themselves ready for anything and to feel more grateful for what they actually had.
But why on earth would you do that? Well, this kind of training, it builds up your resilience. It's like you're proving to yourself, hey, I can handle this. I'm tougher than I think. It teaches you that your happiness isn't tied to being comfortable or owning the latest gadget. It is such a powerful weapon against all the modern pressures we face, like consumerism and, that constant need for likes and validation online.
So you can actually boil this whole philosophy down to a really simple but super powerful moral compass, and it's all built around 4 core virtues.
Right at the heart of Stoicism, you'll find these 4 cardinal virtues. They're meant to be the guide for everything you do, the way you measure whether you're living a good life. They are wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice.
So, what do they mean? Wisdom is just knowing how to handle tough situations, like figuring out what you can and can't control in a stressful job. Courage? That's doing the right thing, even when it's hard, like having that conversation you've been avoiding. Temperance is all about self-control. Not clicking buy now on that thing you saw on Instagram. And then there's justice, which the Stoics thought was the most important of all. It's simply about doing right by other people, being fair and kind.
And look, this is not just some dusty, ancient philosophy. The ideas here are every bit as powerful and relevant today as they were 2,000 years ago. 27. Just a number, right? But what if I told you that number represents 27 years that one man spent locked away in prison for a crime he didn't commit? That's how powerful Stoicism can be in the real world. That man was Nelson Mandela, and while he was in prison, he was reading the works of the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Think about it. When he finally got out and became president, he could have gone after everyone who wronged him. He had every right to seek revenge, but he didn't. He focused on the one thing he could control, the future of his country. He chose reconciliation over revenge. That is a textbook Stoic response. And the legacy doesn't even stop there. Modern psychology owes a huge debt to Stoicism. You ever hear of therapies like REBT, Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy? It's built directly on the Stoic idea that it's not events that upset us, but our beliefs about them. Or logotherapy, which is all about finding meaning even in suffering. That's pure Stoicism. The idea that no matter how bad things get, you always have the freedom to choose your response and find purpose in it. So what's the bottom line here? It's this. Life is going to test you. That's not an if, it's a when. Your shipwreck, whatever it looks like, is coming, and you can't control that. But what you can control, what is always 100% up to you, is your answer. Your choice to respond with wisdom, with courage, with self-control, and with justice. So the only real question left is, what's your answer going to be?